Hello, welcome to my channel. I am way late on this, but it's the Deck Crush VR, and I have gone through my collection and pulled out the decks that really match with these categories, and I hope you enjoy. My Fling deck is definitely going to be the Macabre Tarot. When I first got this deck, I was so blown away with the artwork, the gold edging, black. It just was definitely my style, and it was so nice to have a Halloween deck that wasn't so trick-or-treat-esque. So this one I worked with all the time. It was in my bag. It went everywhere with me. Any reading I did, I was using this. I just loved how spooky and captivating the artwork was. They have these shadowy figures that are just so unique and pull a really horror fan part of me. So I really loved using this deck. It didn't last very long. I was really only working with it for the first month or two when I had it. I haven't worked with it a ton since, so it definitely fits the bill of the Fling because it was a short period of absolute wild times. Now, it is really nice too because it has really nice cardstock, and the guidebook is actually really nice too. It has each page with the little short description and the picture. Really liked working with it. And yeah. Next up is the category of puppy love. This is a deck that I really tried to love. It's the Tarot of the Divine. So many people have this as a staple in their collection, but for me, I just, for whatever reason, could not connect with it. I love everything about it aesthetically. I love the cardstock. I love the artwork. I love the fact that it's incorporating myth and characters from all around the world, but it just doesn't read that well for me. It's totally a personal thing, but for a long-term commitment, I don't even know if this deck is going to stay in my collection. I've really put a lot of work in trying to connect with it, but it's just really not happening, which is such a disappointment. I'm still going to try. I actually went ahead and bought the large book that accompanies it to see if really diving into the myth around each card will help me connect. Haven't given that enough time to potentially work yet, but that's what I'm hoping will work. It's just totally a deck that I could not connect with, even though I was so infatuated with it when I first got it in. Like, look at the cardstock. It is so beautiful. And it does have a relatively decent guidebook, short little write-ups, but the guidebook was not enough to really let me get a sense of the characters. So I did go ahead and bought the Beneath the Moon book, and that has much more in-depth write-ups about each character and each myth, but like I said, I haven't had a chance to really dive in and give that its due course. But chances are this deck won't be staying in my collection for the long term, so it fit the bill of puppy love. It was pure infatuation at the beginning, but it didn't work out, unfortunately, so far. The next category is Friends with Benefits, and for this I have the Pagan Otherworlds. This category is for a deck that I care about sometimes, and other times I get extremely passionate about. Now this deck is so that in my collection, I can go months without even touching it, and then for some reason I'm just thoroughly obsessed with it, and I will only read with it. The artwork is just, it's very pagan to me. It is very ancestral, even though it has the Christian, like with the Lovers card, to me that's Adam and Eve. Like, that's so not pagan, but whatever. Everything else is so rich, and the cards are so luxurious, and I did spend a lot of money on it, so it is one of those decks that I feel bougie when I use it. So Friends with Benefits, 100%. It's wild times, and then I could care less about it in between. But I really do like reading with it. I find it's a really easy read to put myself in the situations the way that they've done the artwork. Even though it is a bit more pippish, the scenery allows me to read with it really well. I'm just not, I'm not as obsessed with it as I thought I was going to be. I thought it would be my true love deck and I'd work with nothing else, but it's more of like a friends with benefits sometimes, but not all the time for sure. And it didn't come with a guidebook, and I'm not spending $50 to get the guidebook, so it has that element that it's lacking for me. Next up is the Love at First Sight deck. This one, I actually have two, but I'm going to start with the Lightseers deck. When I saw the artwork on this deck, I was absolutely blown away. It was one of the first decks that got me into my tarot and oracle deck collecting phase, just because it had an attractiveness that I had never really experienced before, and I was instantly drawn in. The color vibrancy and how modern it was really was attractive to me. And yeah, it was definitely a love at first sight. The cardstock was something I really liked. I liked it so much I actually etched it, which was a fun little endeavor for me. But yeah, just the diversity, the vibrancy, the cardstock, the guidebook, all of it really just truly, it's about 3 years old in my collection, and I use it all the time still. It's one of the regular decks that I use in client readings, and it's one of the regular ones I use in my own personal readings. It's definitely held up over time and stood the test of varied use, different spreads, all of that. Yeah, see, the edges are black now, but they don't come that way. And the guidebook is really nice too. It's small, but it does give me a really nice overview of the card meanings. Now the second deck that I have in here, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to describe how much I love this deck. It is the Lord of the Rings deck. You can find it on Etsy. The creator is FickesArt, or FickesArt, Fickes art, and the artwork is so captivating to me. I'm a really big Lord of the Rings fan, more the movies, less the books. I just don't have time. I have a kid. I'm not gonna be able to read those right now, but the movies are something that I watched a lot as a kid and in my teenage years, and I can get so much of the meanings of the cards from the images and the way that the artist matched up the different scenes with the card meanings. It just makes so much sense to me. And it was an instant buy. I think I saw it on Dawn Michelle's channel, where she did a flip through of it, and I literally bought it after the video ended. I just went over, put it in my cart, and got it shipped right to me because it was so perfect for me personally. Yeah, it didn't come with a guidebook, but like I said, the artwork just makes so much sense. And like with the Empress, I'm looking for the Emperor because it's actually Aragon's his half. I don't really need a guidebook with this deck, to be perfectly honest, because it all makes so much sense to me with the choices that were made for the different card meanings. My choice for the one night stand category is the Ostara Tarot. This is a deck that I really loved but got tired of and moved on really quickly. This is my favorite card in the entire deck. It's what drew me into this deck, but unfortunately with the non-cohesive artwork, it's really hard for me to read it. And then also the suits aren't clearly labeled, so it's very hard for me to know what I'm looking at, because a lot of the time the artwork doesn't really depict what I traditionally associate with certain cards. And unless I go through the guidebook and find the picture, I don't always know which suit I'm looking at, which is very frustrating. So the one way I do find that I have success reading with this deck is just going in completely intuitively and kind of treating it more of an oracle, with the incorporation of the tarot when I can make sense of it. But I really couldn't get into this deck. There's another beautiful card, the High Priestess. But I moved on very quickly, even though it had a few cards that I absolutely adore and love. It is a shame. All they had to do, I think, was add the clarity of what suit I was looking at, and I think I would have been able to use it a lot easier. But yeah, it's just too hard for me to use to enjoy over all the other decks in my collection. So it was definitely a one-night stand. I moved on very, very quickly. Yeah, like the guidebook is chunky, which is nice, and it has the colored images, but I would literally have to flip through the entire deck or the entire guidebook to find the picture of the card that I was looking for to know what card I was looking at. It's way too frustrating. The category of We're on a Break was easily filled by the Hush Tarot. Unfortunately, this is another of those decks that the artwork just doesn't really always match what my traditional understanding of the cards are, even though the artwork is absolutely amazing. I will never get rid of this deck because I love to just look through it for the artwork. It is simply stunning. And there will be occasional readings that are more of a shadow work reading that I do find that this deck reads well with. But I really haven't used it in probably a year and a half. It's just really not one that I'm drawn to much anymore, even though, like I said, the artwork is amazing. So when I was thinking of which decks I wanted for this category, this was really the only one that jumped out to me, because not only do I not use it very often, I really don't use it ever. Even seeing it on my shelf, I'm like, oh, maybe I should use that. And then instantly I don't want to use it, just because I know how hard it is to read with this deck when the artwork really doesn't mesh with my understanding. Now, actually, how odd the artwork is doesn't bother me. I really like how spooky and creepy and weird a lot of the depictions are. It's more that I just don't get a story through the artwork, and the story that I might get is so different than what I would traditionally think of. So yeah, it just like the Ostara Tarot, it's just a little bit too hard for me to read with. But unlike the Ostara Tarot, I don't find it reads intuitively very well for me. So I just really don't reach for it. It has a nice guidebook, but it doesn't have pictures and like all those fancy things. But yeah. The next category is Marriage Material, easily filled by the Everyday Witch Tarot, the mini one. This one was actually a complete impulse purchase. It was so inexpensive, I couldn't resist, and I didn't really think it would be a deck I would absolutely love, but it has definitely proven itself to me. I have just whipped it out with fun little readings with friends, and it reads so well. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting it to read this well. It works for bigger spreads because it's super tiny, this version anyway. And the artwork is actually really easy for me to read. The meanings and the story that unfolds from the artwork makes so much sense. And it's really fun, has that quirky little witchy vibe. And one that was a total underdog. I had no expectations when I brought it into my collection because, like I said, it was an absolute impulse purchase, but one that I do not regret and that has made up for itself and proven itself time and time again 100% marriage material. Because it was the teensy little deck, it didn't come with a guidebook, so I have actually thought of purchasing the larger one just to get the, I do personally enjoy reading through guidebooks and having the author's take. But yeah, for right now, just a little mini. Definitely, like I said, proven itself. Will be regularly used, great for bigger spreads, great for adding on little clarifier cards. The last category is Happily Ever After. For this, easily filled by my Moonchild Tarot by Danielle Noel. This deck has a radiance about it that connects to me on a really emotional level that I find I mainly use it for personal readings at nighttime or during any type of moon ritual that I personally have as part of my practice. And it has just, I don't even really know how to describe it, but it's very soft and cushy, like a soft pillow. For me, I find it reads really, really well, and it tells me what I need to hear, but in a way that I'm ready to hear it. And it's also just beautiful. The artwork is stunning, and like I said, I don't even really know how to fully describe why this is my favorite deck, but it has a special connection to me, that it is solidly in my Happily Ever After category, and I don't see it moving. The guidebook is really nice. Yeah. So those are my picks for the Deck Crush VR. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, feel free to share it, subscribe, or hit that like button, and hope to see you back on any future videos.